Performance advertisers who optimize for leads. History says October is going to be a painful month. In this episode of the Paid Traffic Forecast, we'll go through what the forecast shows, the hot spots and cold spots you need to pay attention to, what your P&L could look like depending on what you focus on, and the 3 actions you can take to minimize the damage and maximize your revenue. More on that right after this. Hey there, and welcome to the October 2025 Paid Traffic Forecast for lead advertisers. I'm John Belcher, the founder here at Decyphered. That's Ross Pietersen, the head of media buying. And we're excited to show you what's around the corner for you for the next 30 days for your campaigns. Quick introduction to what we do here at Decyphered. We help our clients understand and win at playing the scaling game. Paid traffic is a game. It's a never-ending game of figuring out how to unlock your next level of scale. And winning is about having a game plan. You need clarity on which level you're on so you can focus on taking the right actions. But one of the most important things to building sustainable, predictable scale is understanding your cost environment. It has a huge impact on results. And that is why we created this forecast so you can see the bigger picture while you're playing this game. So what I want to do really quickly is walk through what you're going to get in this quick episode. We're going to go through 4 things. The outlook for October, what the last 5 years tell us is likely in store for you as a lead advertiser. Ross is going to go through the hot spots and the cold spots, specific dates to pay attention to, and the actions you may need to take and or avoid. I'm going to go through the projection models, what your numbers could look like depending on what you focus on. And then finally, the cost environment playbook. I'm going to give you 3 actions you can take to maximize your results and or prepare for the future. So let's talk really quickly about the October outlook. The way this forecast was created, I went back and I needed a way to give our clients an understanding of what was likely to happen with their P&L in the upcoming month. So what I did is I went back and looked at the 5-year historicals on Meta and analyzed CPM trends over hundreds of millions of dollars of spend for the 4 major conversion types. That helped me put out a model. And once we tested it, we found we could project our actual performance was within about 5% of actuals for $1 million a month in ad spend or more. What's important for you to understand is while we're using Meta as our source of truth, these percentages apply across platforms. So we've been testing this for months and months, and it applies to Meta, Google native, and it's starting to apply to AppLovin as more advertisers are coming on. So while Meta is our data set, this applies across the board. It's really important for you to understand this is a forecast and not a prophecy. We have seen this gives us a really good understanding of what's coming up, but things can change, percentages, dates, etc. The goal here is to give you a roadmap of what's around the corner, but it's not a perfect system. So here's what we can expect to happen in the month of October for you as a lead advertiser. On the whole, we're expecting CPMs to go up nearly 26% between the beginning and the end of the month. Now, I know as you a performance advertiser say, John, I don't care about CPMs. All I care about is cost per lead, CPAs, and ROAS. And I totally get it, but what's important for you to understand is there is a direct linear correlation between CPM changes and your actual performance results. And we're going to get deeper into this as we move through the podcast. But right now, what we need to focus on is Ross is going to go through what we call the hot spots and the cold spots for this month. Ross, take it away.
So as we look at the month, let's quickly have a look at this idea of hotspots and cold spots. What they are is just a drastic change in cost in a very short period of time. So a hotspot is an increase and a cold spot is a decrease in a short period of time. So we've got 5 significant dates for the month of October, those being the 4th, 16th, 23rd, 29th, and the 1st of November. Those are the significant dates. Let's have a look at what that looks like on our heat map. The first 3 being cold spots, that means significant decrease. 1 on the 4th, which is early in the month, and as we get through the middle, the 16th, and then the 23rd, we're seeing these drastic drops in cost, causing massive instability. And then the last 2 at the back end, which are the most severe, on the 29th, we're anticipating a really bad hotspot, and straight after that, around Halloween, the 1st of November, there's going to be a significant cold spot. So generally, we're going to see an increase, but these dates are outlined because they're going to be significant and they're going to cause the most volatility. So saying that, John, let's maybe have a quick look at what a hotspot might feel like. What this will feel like is, as you're going into the hotspot, your cost per lead is significantly going to increase, and you also may start to get underspend. For those of you using cost controls, things like target CPA, target cost per lead, those kinds of things, bid cap, cost cap, you'll actually experience spending stopping because you've got those guardrails in place. What you'll have is the algorithm's going to be protecting your spend, and you'll actually have spend stop on certain campaigns as well as potential underspend. Let's have a look at the risks on what we're trying to avoid here in a hotspot scenario. Essentially, we're wasting budget and potentially breaking our stability. So what we want to try and avoid doing is those exact things. And how you want to do that is keeping your eye on your budget utilization. So if you're spending $100 a day on a particular ad set or a campaign, depending if you're using ABO or CBO, you need to have a look. If you're spending $100 a day, how much of that is getting used? In a hotspot, you'll start to feel, obviously, there's going to be an underspend. So $60 could be spent. That means we're going into a hotspot. Another mistake you can make is boosting those budgets to combat that underspend. Really, you're in a higher cost environment. You're really pushing into this. It's really not going to help. Another thing is blaming the network, thinking, oh man, this is another algorithm change or Facebook's bad day. These are anticipated. This is why we built this forecast, just to give you an idea of what is actually going to be happening. We're expecting these things to come. The last thing is if you're in a controlled advertiser, so you're using those cost controls, changing your target CPA, changing those bids are really going to make things really worse for yourself. You're going to create more instability. You're moving the goalpost for the algorithm to find different people at different segments in a higher cost time, really creating more instability. Again, boosting those budgets, especially in those controlled with those cost controls, really not going to be able to overcome those higher costs. And the last one here is forgetting that only your strong ads are going to survive. Only your ads that have really produced at a much higher level, have consistently produced, and are not so close to those target caps, those are the only ones that are going to survive here. Let's look at a real world example here. This is a scenario, taking a screenshot of some of the data that we capture, and you'll see through this month, everywhere that's highlighted in orange, we're seeing significant underspend, which means there's a cost increase during that time. There's scenarios where we're seeing almost 30% underspend. That's quite significant over a large portion of budget. And that's an indication of a hotspot. We're seeing budget underutilization, where we've set a budget at a particular level and all of that budget's not really getting spent. Let's have a quick look at what a cold spot would look like. This is quite the opposite, and I'll note here that the cold spot is actually worse than a hot spot because you've got no control here. You're actually going to overspend because those costs and that cost environment is dropping. All of a sudden, ad networks say, oh, it's great. And they're trying to overcompensate because now we're removing those constraints and there's overspend. What that causes is massive instability as you come down the hill. They've now got these constraints removed. So you're seeing significant overspend, as well as causing some major instability. Let's go and have a look at what these risks and big mistakes are in a cold spot. What we're risking here is extending our recovery period if we make too many of the wrong actions, and ruining the account stability and our ability to produce leads consistently. If you're an uncontrolled advertiser, I'm always going to highlight this. This is my obsession. Watching your budget utilization. It's something you have to continually do. If you're spending $100 and all of a sudden you're spending $150, that's an overspend. So it's a really good indication of what you're hitting a cold spot. Drastic budget changes in this time is also a really bad move. You're really in this transition period, going from a high to a low. You need to make sure that you stabilize that out. And also scaling before performance stabilizes. Really needing to let things settle so that you can start scaling and get back to normal. If you've got cost controls in place, again, needing to keep an eye on your spend utilization. Big budget changes and bid changes during this time is also a terrible idea. You're in transition, really bad idea. You need to let things settle. And the last thing is rebuilding those campaigns and trying to scale up too fast. You need to let things settle. And once they've settled, restart from scratch and build them up nice and slowly. Let's take a little look at what that would look like as a real world example.
So just one thing I want to add really quickly on this last point, rebuilding and scaling. What Ross is mentioning is whenever we come out of a hotspot where we had to kill a target CPA campaign, and we said, well, this used to be producing at $3,000 a day. Let's just start it there. I've made that mistake, Ross. Let's just start here. It just doesn't perform because it's starting at too high of a budget. So what he's saying is you have to start and work your way back up. That's, we call it the scaling ladder, to get back to where you want to be. That's really the mistake that we've made in the past. And once again, that's me pushing on that. So cool. Let's look at this.
So what this looks like is you'll see here, similar to the other hotspot scenario, this is the opposite, where we're seeing a budget set and we've got overspend, sometimes up to 150% of a budget spent. So you're setting a budget, say $100 a day to round number, and all of a sudden you're seeing $140, $150 a day, and you're asking, well, what's going on? Why are they spending all my money? And what this is doing is you're in a position where there's a cost decrease. All of a sudden, the ad network is trying to take advantage of that. Really not their fault. That's how their spend engine is designed. But the problem is you're creating this massive instability. You're pushing way too much too quickly. And because it's a period of transition, it's only short-lived. If it was consistent, great, that would be fine. But the problem is it's very short-lived. You're going to come down from this, and we'll very often see a day or two of underspend to compensate and then stabilize again. So this is really what a real world example of a cold spot, what it looks like in an ad account.
Cool. So before we dig into the next piece, I just want to go back here and look at our main graph. You're going to be experiencing a series of these. And if we would mention everything that was a potential hotspot or cold spot, there would just be like 15 items on here, right? So Ross has flagged the most important milestones. But I think what's really crucial for you to understand, and right now we're experiencing this as we film this, we are experiencing a hotspot where we're seeing with our target CPA campaigns, our cost per leads going up, and we know we're going to start to get choked out. And it's basically one of those things of communicating that to our client, hey, this is going to go away and we're not going to be able to replace this. So we're going to have to make adjustments either to expectations or the other things that we're doing. And so what's important for you to understand is these are the dates, but you have to be preparing ahead of time of what you're going to do in these particular scenarios, because this is what it is. There's no, like, you can't just pull a silver bullet out that's going to magically fix everything. You have to come in, you have to be communicating this with your team, with your clients. So this is what's going to happen. And here's what you need to do next. So thanks, Ross, for walking us through that. Now that we understand the hot spots and cold spots, will you walk us through these seasonal macro trends?
So on top of the hot spots and cold spots, we also look at our annual calendar. What are the things that come up on a monthly basis that affect all advertisers in the space? So these are big retail moments like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, elections, those kinds of things, where big brand advertisers start dumping budgets in. They're buying on CPMs. And if you're buying on CPMs, it's much cheaper. You're not buying on conversions like us performance advertisers. And we outline those every month. So what we've outlined for this month is our normal end of month scenario where we're having, the typical month end budget dumps, as well as what I haven't indicated on here, which is clearly visible in red magenta, is Halloween. That's a typical one that you're going to see here, where you're going to see big brand buys in that particular period of time.
And so basically what we're saying is October is going to be painful, and the end of October is going to be really painful. It's important that you're preparing for this and that you have a plan in place, because the auction for lead advertisers is going to be expensive. And then at the end of the month, you're also going to start to get squeezed out. So even though you're paying more per lead, now you're going to be producing fewer leads at higher costs. It's going to be really painful. And so A, you need to be aware of this. And then B, we need to talk about how is this going to impact your P&L and what can you do about it. So Ross, thanks for walking us through that. Really appreciate it. I want to dive into the projection models really quickly. I'm a math guy. I know that most people aren't, so I'm going to walk you through this really quickly. My goal is to view the CPM impact on results so I can tell our clients how it's going to hit the P&L. A couple of things we have to consider from the variable side is the number of selling days and conversion rate changes from month to month, season to season. I've highlighted selling days because October has one more selling day than September. So when you're doing your projections, you have to factor in the number of days. And then for you, if you have a typical seasonal conversion rate change, you should factor that in as well. The result is to try and understand the evergreen production. So I can say, if we produced this in September, what is the cost change going to change with the impact as we move into October? We call this the expectation from our proven base of campaigns. Then we compare that to the client goal and we say, do we have a surplus or a delta? And that helps us determine our monthly focuses. So based off these models, we can determine which actions do we need to take and how risky can they be. So when we talk about this, what I want to explain really quickly is what higher CPMs mean and why this is important for you as a performance advertiser. Is if in the month of September you spent $100,000 and you reached this number of people, in the month of October for that same $100,000, you're going to reach 26% fewer people. I know you don't care about CPMs, but this is why it matters. For that same spend, you're reaching fewer people, and how performance advertising works is it's about the number of impressions. Your click-through rates really aren't going to change that much. Your page load rates, your add to cart rates, your purchase rates, whatever it is, whatever your funnel is, right? It's not going to really change. And so unless you have this drastic conversion rate change. So when you put fewer people in the top, your ROI gets worse on the bottom. And how this looks inside of a spreadsheet is, once again, I go back to September. If this is what we produced with our funnel in the month of September, $100,000 in spend, 10,000 leads, $10 per lead, we end up generating $25 per lead. That's $250,000 of revenue and a 2.5 ROAS. Well, we build 3 different models. What happens if we maintain the same spend? Well, we're going to produce 20% fewer leads. Our cost per lead is going to go up 26%. And that means our revenue is going down almost over $50,000, and our ROAS is going down 0.5. If we want to maintain the same volume as last month, we are going to have to, what I call, pee into the wind. So we're going to have to spend harder into higher CPMs, which is going to make our cost per lead go up more than 50%. We're going to have to spend $158,000 to generate the same number of leads. And that's going to take so while we're producing the same revenue, our ROAS is going down almost from a 2.5 to a 1.5, which is super dramatic. And then finally, if we want to maintain that same cost per lead at $10, we're going to have to pull back dramatically. Right now, the best case scenario would be $63,000 of spend to generate the same economics. But even if that were the case, if it were possible, we're losing almost $100,000 of revenue. And the reason I say best case scenario, we treat this like stock trading. When you start to pull back, it's like setting a bid cap on what you're willing to pay for a share. If that cap is at or above market price, it gets filled all day. But once it starts going under market price, not all of your orders get filled. That's what happens when you pull back on ad spend. So this is a drastic change to the P&L, right? It is massive any way you slice it. It can be a $50,000 drop in revenue and a drop in ROAS. It can be a maintenance of revenue, but your ROAS is plummeting, or it can be the same ROAS, but your revenue drops $100,000. It just creates a massive delta no matter which way you slice it. So what's important for you to understand is, since your costs are going up, your results are going down, you have to come up with ways to make up this delta. And so that's where we talk about our cost environment playbook. I want every month to give you 3 plays based off your cost environment that you can run to try and make things work, whether you're heading into this higher cost environment or you're preparing for the future if you're in a different one. Right now, since we're talking about higher cost environment, there's 3 plays we're going to talk through. Highest lift, it requires the most effort. We move into medium lift and then low lift. This is what I want to walk you through over the next few minutes. I always try and use an example company just to make sure that we can have a single use case that explains how this would be done. We use the product N8N for AI and automation. So think of it like Zapier with better AI capabilities. That's essentially what this is if you haven't used it before. It's an awesome product. We use it a lot. And so I want to use this as the frame of reference. So the first play, the high lift play, is supporting proven partners and affiliates. What I would highly recommend right now, since your costs are going up, if you have the ability to provide seasonal payout bumps to your affiliates, this can help you drive more volume because they're currently driving volume based off their current payout. If they're going to be paid more, they're going to push more. And this is great, especially if you have people with organic reach. because they will push even harder, and it will help you cost average what your cost per lead is, because you're typically paying out less to an affiliate than you're willing to pay internally. But I put here, be careful. Don't just say, hey, we're going to give you a payout bump, and they will expect that to be forever. You want to tell them, you want to test to see if your numbers still work if you increase their payout 10%, since you're seeing a 27% increase in your ad pricing. You have to preface this that you may be able to revert it back in the future. Otherwise, they're just going to expect it moving forward. So if I was N8N, what I would do is send an email to our awesome partners just asking for a Q4 test. Hey, awesome affiliate, I'm reaching out because you've been an awesome partner for us and I want to try something new. We want to test increasing your payouts during Q4 to see how the numbers shake out. I can't promise this bump will be permanent, but it's willing to give it a shot. Let me know if you're interested. I know 0 affiliates that are not interested in payout bumps. So this is something that they could agree to, but it's also prefaced. This is not going to necessarily last forever. And it's giving you that ability to drive more sales through channels that are not paid. You have fixed costs. This is a great way to cost average. Second play is non-paid efforts. So what I put here, when I was the VP of marketing at a big supplement company, what we did on a monthly basis was determine, here's our revenue goal. And I didn't have this forecast at the time, so I couldn't even understand what was happening with paid. All I could do was say, what did paid do last month? And then we'd have to determine the delta. So let's say the company said we want to do $1 million in revenue, and last month we only did 800,000, and I'm expecting the same contribution from paid traffic. Well, I have to come up with $200,000 more revenue. And so the way I did that is I looked at what is our average revenue per campaign with email, with social, with SMS, and I broke it down into the number of campaigns on each channel. And then as you know, whatever that number was, we had to determine the content for each one of them, because you can't just run the same content over and over. You'll get diminishing returns. So this is the way that we planned out our non-paid efforts. And an example migration, I went on N8N's Twitter, and I saw they were posting about these cheat sheets. So members of their community go through and create cheat sheets that talk about keyboard shortcuts, data, expressions, nodes, HTTP requests, node settings, example workflows. If these are things that are generating leads for them, whether it be ads, social, whatever, the goal here is to cross-pollinate across your channels and say, this is performing over here. Let's cross-pollinate this everywhere. And the goal is, if something is working, you can go generate new leads using stuff that's already taking place. Obviously, our goal would be to take stuff from ads and move them to non-paid channels. And this would be a way to do this. We can say all of our N8N automation cheat sheets delivered directly to your inbox when they're released. You're going to have a captive audience of emails, SMS people that are getting value on tap that they're going to go then turn around and utilize with your product. So they're continuing to pay you subscriptions, generating more revenue. And it's also something that's really easy for people to share, so you can get a virality coefficient that goes with it. So this is a really great way to go through and do this using assets that are already proven. An awesome way to leverage non-paid channels. The final piece is deploying proven angle iterations. So Ross and I focus on, when we're heading into higher cost seasons, we want to spend more money on the things we already know work, so there's less waste. So the way we do this is we generate new versions of proven angles. Iterations provide new content that the platform likes and will prioritize from a delivery perspective, but it also maximizes our chance at success because it's built off something that already works. So ironically, we developed an N8N workflow to produce these at scale. It ingests our top performing ad scripts, and agent writes new scripts and uses 11 Labs to produce voiceovers. And then our video editing team goes through and produces them so we can launch them. We've been focused on this heavily leading up to Q4, so we have a stockpile that we can start to put out as we're heading into these higher cost environments. So if you haven't already done this, get on this now. Iterations on your top performing angles. An example that I just went on to N8N site, and they've got pre-built workflows and agents. If I was them and I was running ads to generate more leads, all I would do is look at each of these workflows, and I would build a very simple campaign that there's hundreds of these. And if they're findings, I would just build a campaign, broad targeting for each one of these, and see which of these pre-built workflows are calling out to people that are useful, and it's generating new customers for them. They do a free trial and then you move into a paid perspective. But whether it be personal life management, talking to Google Sheets, generating viral videos, JSON basics, learning no code, blah, blah, blah. If we could drive people to these pre-built workflows, whichever ones of them are working and producing, we just develop more ads, more angles. We focus on if viral videos is the thing that's getting proven clients. That's what we build more of those. Here's the workflows. Here's the agents that are doing these. And so ideally what this looks like, you've got these and they are turned into, it goes through and it's literally just copy and paste. You use it for free, you click, you sign up, and then you're moving into a paid trial. It's an awesome way to do this. And you just have all of these examples that you can just test with low ad budgets to figure out what works and just make more of them. Ross, can you just talk really quickly? I'll explain here super fast. When we started doing this, we had a parent angle. Angle 20 is one of our longest standing performers. It has $5 million lifetime, 2.5 year to date, but it started to burn out in August. So we started to do this particular iteration process. And we've seen these AI iterations start to be able to ramp up. They're replacing the volume that we're losing from our top angle. Can you just talk really quickly about the difference it's made?
Yeah. So from a resource perspective, creative team don't have to touch this again because we're running it through N8N and the automation. It's taking something that already works, just remixing that and kind of redoing it, making a different version of it with, this is not just different colors. This is a completely different creative, but using the same angle. As a media buyer, this is amazing because especially now going into these higher cost periods, I now have a whole bunch of stockpiled ads that when I'm really battling and I'm needing to push out results, I can just pull off that stockpile and carry on producing these. And just to let you know that these work, some of these AI created angles are spending upwards of $2,000 a day per angle. So it's not that they're rubbish. We had our own hesitation whether they were going to work or not, but these things are working and producing results at scale.
Beautiful. So those are the three plays I've got for you in these high cost environment periods: supporting your proven partners and affiliates, working on your non-paid efforts and having a plan, and then deploying those proven angle iterations. These are three things that we're executing internally as we're starting to experience these issues. And we highly recommend that you do the same as you start to battle these higher costs as you move into the month of October. Thanks so much for your time. We look forward to hearing how things end up for you in October, and we will talk to you again next month. Thanks for watching this month's paid traffic forecast. Just by watching it, you and your team now know what to expect from your overall performance and the hot spots and cold spots you need to pay attention to over the next 30 days. If you want to be this prepared every month, there's two things you can do. First, you can subscribe or follow our social channels so this information shows up in your feed at the beginning of every month. Second, if you want the information early, you can subscribe to our free list where you'll get the information delivered to your inbox a day ahead of time. If there's something you think we can do to improve our monthly update, just drop us a comment below and let us know what you think that is. And finally, if you're a business owner looking for someone who can help you develop an advertising ecosystem that produces more sustainable, predictable scale, make sure to head over to Decyphered.com/start. On that page, you'll understand how our process works and the steps you can take to see if we might be a good fit to help you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next month.